Everyone, Jules here. I am just about to join Calion from the Barkana Tarot. You can find him at the Major Barkana to talk about his fantastic dog-themed tarot deck. This deck is full of gorgeous, vibrantly colored watercolor paintings for all 78 of the cards, and it is in support of service and assistance dogs, which is so lovely. I feel very privileged to have received a prototype deck, so I'll be able to show some of the cards during our chat. So I'm just waiting for Calion to join us, and then I will send an invite for the chat. There we go. And yeah. Hi!
Hi.
So good to see you.
So good to see you too. Let me see if I can get my screen kind of up in a good position. Okay, I think it's going to
Yeah,
stay
I was just
balanced.
doing all the adjustment. I might. There we
Yeah,
go.
I've never done an Instagram live, so
Oh my gosh, I've done a few of these now, but the first time I was so anxious because I'm like, am I even going to be able to ask the person to join? How does this work? How do I do the
Mhm.
formatting? It was the whole process. I'm a little more relaxed now, but it's always a bit
Uh-huh.
intimidating getting on camera. So,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
definitely. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to
Oh,
like
my
talk with your
pleasure.
audience and like get to know the people here and just talk about the deck a little bit and stuff.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so excited. I love this deck so much. I feel so honored
Thank
that you
you.
sent me a prototype copy. I was just letting everyone know that I have it here. I have it all broken down into major arcana in each of the minor arcana suits too. So
Mm-hmm.
I thought as we go through and chat about the cards, then I can pull them up for quick reference. So yeah, I just wanted to ask first, how did this deck come about? I was mentioning as I did my intro that it's made up of 78 vibrant and beautiful watercolor paintings that you did, and they're all based on service and assistance dogs, correct?
A lot of them are. Not everyone
Yeah,
is. Yeah, but there
yeah,
are a lot of service dogs. Everyone is based off of a real dog,
yeah.
so everyone has like a real dog story behind it, and usually that story matches the meaning of the card. And then I think it's about like 11 of the cards I want to say have service dogs, and then there are a whole bunch that also have like emotional support animals and other like just awesome, fantastic dogs like that.
Yeah. Oh,
Hmm.
that's so fantastic. Yeah, we got our first dog 4 years ago.
Hmm.
4 years and a little bit ago. He's a Chihuahua Fox Terrier
No.
mix, and
Hmm.
he's still my heart. I was never a dog person before that. Like I've always liked
Hmm.
animals, but I didn't really get dog ownership. And now that he's part of our lives, I can't see myself without a
Hmm.
dog. Such a special bond. And as someone who deals with a lot of anxiety, when I have that 3 a.m. wake up and I get up and he's snuggling up to me and I can give him a pet, it's so comforting. Dogs
Hmm.
are such a wonderful presence. It's really
Yeah, they are.
lovely. Yeah,
Hmm.
that's so great. So, how did the deck come to be? What was your inspiration for pulling all this together?
Yeah, so I had never like done any sort of real exploration into tarot for a while, like or
Yeah,
like throughout my life. I knew what it was, obviously, and
yeah,
like
yeah.
had friends and stuff who had dabbled with it, but it was really that like I had just like sort of an art blog, and someone wanted to reach out to me, and they were like, "Hey, have you ever thought about doing a tarot deck?" And I was like, "No, I haven't." And then all of a sudden, it popped in my head of like, "What if I made a dog tarot deck?" Because like I love dogs, and I was in the process of like fundraising and like raising awareness so that I could get my own service dog,
Yeah.
and just basically like that just kind of like sparked something in me, and I was like, this sounds really fun. I had initially gone to art school for a period of time to study illustration, and once I was like out of the school, I sort of like didn't really have a direction with my art,
Yeah.
so this gave me something that was like a long-term project, much longer than I was expecting to actually spend on it,
Yeah.
but it was
It's
like a
been like
long-term
5 years,
project.
right?
Yeah, almost
Yeah,
5 years.
yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah, so a really, really intense, yeah, journey and everything like that. So, yeah, so that was kind of how it started. And watercolor is like my media, like that's my
Yeah.
favorite media to work with. And then it's just dogs. So like it was just such a fun way to explore tarot while
Mhm.
also like um allowing me a way to kind of just like heal and process through art because it was all like
Yeah.
very just sort of like cheery, colorful, like, and then I got more into the cards that had like depth into them, but it all kind of retained some sort of level of like optimism and like connection and things like that to it. So,
Oh, that's so wonderful. And what I love about it is that it is like there's so much joy in all of these cards. Like my kids are 9 and 12 and 13, and my 13-year-old is the one that's most, I'm just showing everyone these lovely cards,
Yeah,
the
thank you.
tarot. And she definitely, I mean, I would gravitate towards gentler decks for them right now because they are younger. But even for myself, like, there's times when I need a warm hug from my tarot deck, and I can reach towards something that just feels very gentle and very nourishing. And this deck just sparks so much joy. Like all of the
Thank you.
illustrations are just incredible. And even some of the more challenging decks, like one of my all-time favorite cards in this deck is the Three of Swords. And that's typically a very challenging card, but this one is so lovely, you know, and you capture the meaning so beautifully, and yet
Thank you.
there's a brightness to it that is very welcome, you know. I
Yeah.
really love that a lot.
Thank
Yeah,
you. Thank you.
oh, so fantastic. And your artwork is just stunning. Like the way that you've captured all of these beautiful pups, it's really, really inspiring. I'm not an artist by trade. I tend to write more than I sketch. My daughter's getting really into art and figure drawing and all that kind of stuff. So it's been really fascinating to follow along with her journey and see where it takes her. But it's such an inspiration. I don't know. I find that tarot for me is art appreciation as much as it is working with the archetypes, and it's so lovely when you find something that just speaks to you on such a deep level. That's really cool. So I was going to go through some of the specs for the deck just to let people know.
Yeah.
So there's 78 cards. It's based on Rider-Waite-Smith symbolism. It has a anti-scratch matte finish. Sorry, say that 10 times fast. 350 GSM. And for the U.S. orders, there's going to be 2 dog fact cards, right? Talking about service and assistance.
Yep.
Oh, so cool. That's amazing. Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. And it comes in a clamshell box with a magnetic close, which is so fantastic. Tech boxes have their place, but I definitely like a nice sturdy box. It feels much more protected. Yeah, that's really amazing. Oh, that's so great.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, going through the printing process was such a like journey for me too. I didn't realize how much was involved in creating a tarot deck. Like, I was like very much like, okay, cool, the art, I can do that. Like, I know how to paint, like, you know, and that was all like natural. And I was like, cool, I get to paint dogs. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I have to learn printing. Like, I have to learn all of this. Like, how do you convert traditional art, not just into like a printable image, but into an image that is so reproducible as well. And there's so much that goes into that. And then like printer errors of like margin errors and like just how to format something. Like one of the toughest decisions actually in making this deck was considering the borders of it. Because like borders are so controversial in the tarot community and like, you know, and like I've seen so much discourse over borders. And so I was like so hesitant to introduce borders into the card, but I also wanted to protect the illustrations. And like the thing is that you lose like a good, I don't know, like 15% of the outside of an illustration if you're printing it to the actual like, you know, full edge. Like and like, and the thing too is that like because it was such a long project and it was done on traditional watercolor paper, it wasn't really something that like I could easily expand a border a little bit like I could do with something that was more digital art. So basically it was kind of this like journey of trying to figure out like what worked. And I know I didn't want like the white borders because I feel like that would take away from the art. But I was like, you know, I could really pull in something because like it is such a colorful deck. So I really just kind of paid attention to every illustration and sort of created the border colors just based on like what really brought that illustration to life. So that was like a really fun process to kind of connect with the colors of the cards as well throughout it.
Yeah, and I really appreciate how you've done that because, like, for example, the Fool card here has this beautiful yellow border. And I love that you have the buckle at the bottom, too. That's a beautiful choice for framing because I feel like with artwork, too, and these are all works of art, it's so nice to have that frame. Like, it really offsets the illustration in the middle, too. So as an aesthetic choice. But then, yeah, like the Ace of Cups has this beautiful blue, and you've really picked up on the tones that are in the cards themselves. And it really helps the illustration pop. And like you said, keeps that image pristine, so you're not worrying about it bleeding out at the edges or losing anything in the translation. Yeah, and then the green here, like it's just beautiful.
Thank you.
So where did you and a little pink here?
That's my dog.
Oh my
Actually,
God, it is!
that's her card. Yeah.
Oh, amazing. What's your dog name?
Her name is Tally.
Oh,
Yep. And
what a
she's my
sweetheart.
she was going to be like my full like service dog, but then she
Yeah,
got
yeah.
attacked by a dog.
Oh my
So she
God.
can't do I know she can't do like public work anymore. She gets a little too
Oh,
anxious.
yeah,
But
no
she still
kidding.
helps me in the home and everything.
Yeah,
So yeah, she's
yeah.
fantastic.
Oh,
Hmm.
that's wonderful. Yeah. Pippin tends to be quite excitable when we take him out. We
Hmm.
weren't able to socialize him when he was really little as much as
Hmm.
we would have liked. We were doing full-time RV travel and we just weren't around anybody who had dogs. So we
Yeah.
socialized with other people. But he tends to get really excited when he sees other dogs and kind of worked
Hmm.
up and a bit stressed. So going out for walks with him is lovely, but it can also be a bit challenging and stressful. Whereas I find at home, like he's in his own domain, and as long as someone's not
Hmm.
delivering mail or something like that, then he's good.
Hmm.
But yeah, even if your dog is just at home with you primarily, it's such a source of comfort,
Yeah.
having the presence there. It's
Oh
amazing.
yeah.
I never really understood the importance of emotional support until we got him, and it's just been
Hmm.
such a beautiful relationship.
Hmm. Hmm.
Oh, that's so cool. I'm so glad that I managed to grab this dog.
Yeah.
So how did you sort that out in the end? Like, what was the process like in finding a printer that you liked? Did you have to send samples to a few different people, or did you talk to people within the community? Like, what was that process like?
Yeah, so basically, so I had initially kind of had like a big printer issue a couple of years ago because I
Oh,
had done a Kickstarter
yes,
that was
yes,
just the
for the majors.
majors, yeah,
Yeah,
just for the
yeah.
majors. And this printer actually came like really highly recommended by other deck creators. There were like four or five that recommended them to me, and they used to produce amazing work. But I guess I was just like the cutoff project for them, where they suddenly dropped the
Oh,
ball after this. From my project on, like they
oh,
have
that's
just
terrible.
garnered a horrible reputation, and they
Mhm.
basically just like scammed me.
Oh,
And
that's
like
terrible.
yeah, there was a huge issue with it, and some of their contract work wasn't as clear as like I thought it was and stuff like that. So basically I learned a lot from that printing process,
Oh, yeah.
and learned like really to go with like a much larger company as well, like something that was just like a lot of deck creators had used
Mhm.
them. So I'm going with Print Ninja this time, because
Oh,
like I know
cool.
that yeah, they're like affordable. They work with a lot of like other like mostly like Chinese printers,
Yeah,
but like other companies that I had like spoken with before and really
yeah,
liked their
yeah.
work of. So they kind of like help coordinate everything, and they have just such like clear terms. They like
Oh,
specify
yeah.
their margin of error, which is like
Mhm.
standard for printing because like you can't get 100%
Mhm.
accuracy with all prints.
Yeah.
So they're like, okay, it's like 2% margin of error, which is totally
Mhm.
like fine. They have
Mhm.
like clear refund policies, clear
Mhm.
like everything like that. So I'm like, okay, like I actually feel confident with this creation. And
Mhm.
the process was really like doing a lot of interviewing the companies. So I did a lot where like I kind of sent this big long email list of questions. So to get like a lot of information, getting quotes was a huge part of it because that determined the budget for the Kickstarter and what was feasible and everything like that. And then getting sample packs as well. So that sort of thing. And then what I also did in addition to this is that I worked with a different company called Shuffled Ink,
Yeah.
and that's where I got the prototype decks. So the one that you have and the one that a few other like tarot kind of account owners have as
Yeah.
well, and I have a copy as well. So basically, I worked with them to sort of just see what the deck looked like to
Mhm.
start because they do digital printing, so
Yeah.
they can print just one deck, they can print
Mhm.
10 decks, like so it was a little bit of a cost investment because it gets expensive when you're printing small
Uh-huh.
quantities, but it was really worth being able to see what the deck actually looked like, and that way
Mhm.
like the files all together and everything like that,
Mhm.
and that kind of functions as a prototype deck as
Yeah.
well, even though the actual like stock and finish and things like that will change when I actually work with Print Ninja. And all of those the Print Ninja stats are all the ones on the Kickstarter. So what you were reading out earlier, that's what I'm doing with Print Ninja. The Shuffled Ink one is different from the stats that um
Yeah.
yeah, that were
Oh, that's
mentioned. So
awesome.
mhm,
I would imagine that that process would help with quality control and then just figuring out
yeah.
the aesthetics too. And I know
Mhm.
having backed quite a few Kickstarters that it's also a matter of like tone and finish and like
Yeah.
there's so many different factors that come into play.
Mhm.
But I have to say like this prototype deck, excuse me, the quality is excellent. Like the
Thank
cards
you.
are lovely and it's really, really amazing to work with. So I mean, if this is the prototype, then it's going to be amazing. And I've heard really good
Thank
things
you.
both Shuffled Ink and Print Ninja after
Mhm.
having talked to people in the industry and well, just other deck creators. And yeah, I think it's really important to find a good company to work with,
Yeah.
and then, if you ever have any projects down the line, who to go back to, because it,
Mhm.
it really runs the gamut, in terms of, I've heard lots of different stories from both ends of the spectrum. So I'm glad that you
Mhm.
found someone that you like and that you can work with. It makes a big difference.
Yeah, for sure.
That's really
Yeah,
cool.
and I'm feeling really confident about this printing and stuff.
Yeah,
And I built in contingency into the Kickstarter
yeah,
budget and like did a
yeah,
lot of the things that I learned from my first Kickstarter, and really
yeah,
modified it to make sure that it's like going to be
yeah.
a project that, you know, the deck is produced and it is going to look like fantastic when it's printed.
Yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely. I would think it's your second kick at the can with Kickstarter, so there's a lot of learning that happens, I think, the first time around.
Hmm.
That can be really helpful the second. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
definitely.
and did I see in your post that this is a limited run print? So there's only a certain
Hmm.
amount of decks that are coming out, and then that's it, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah,
So as long as this project has been as much as I've dedicated like so
yeah,
much time to it, I think there's a huge financial challenge in trying to do a reprint of something because you
yeah.
basically have to like refund the several
Hmm.
$1,000s to print, which
Hmm.
is just something that I don't have that financial
Yeah,
privilege. Which like it would be amazing to be able to do that,
yeah,
but really like so basically with this deck, like this Kickstarter is going to fund probably the only copies of this deck in the world, and that will probably be the only ones that are created. I mean, I
yeah,
can't say like with 100% certainty because who
yeah,
knows where the future leads,
for
but my
sure.
intention is to do yeah, that this is a limited edition deck.
Yeah,
Probably I'll be printing 1,000 of them, so there will be some left over the Kickstarter,
yeah.
and I'm holding some aside for UK backers because they can't pledge
Wow.
in the Kickstarter because of all the
Yeah,
VAT rules and
yeah,
everything like that.
yeah,
So I am like, you know, making sure that those in the UK will be able to get a copy when they want one. But
yeah,
and then I'll sell through like Etsy and my own shop
yeah,
after that as well. But for the most part, yeah, it's really going to be like the best place to guarantee yourself a deck is definitely this Kickstarter, and
yeah.
as well as just like I think it's just like it makes the deck a little bit more special, I think, to
It
sort of
does.
just have like
Yeah,
these iterations and
yeah.
this is the story, here it is, like here's the deck that I created, and then to just kind of like let it exist in the world as like
Mm,
this one project that existed and it was special and a lot of people
yeah,
have it, and then to just sort of like move on to other things as well,
yeah.
because like a huge part of, you know, an artistic journey in general is like continuing on, and I'm one of those people who like I don't like to stay stuck
Yeah,
necessarily in the same project, and
absolutely.
like I've spent 5 years on this. Like, I'm also ready to sort of let it be in the world and
Mhm.
then to explore new avenues and stuff like that too.
Oh, I hear you with that 100%. I mean, 5 years
Hmm.
is a lengthy investment in any kind
Hmm.
of project. Yeah, and I think that there's something really special about that. Like, I'm not taking away from reprints because it's wonderful to be able to get the deck indefinitely.
Hmm.
But I know a lot of artists, like Benabel Wen has three different versions of her Spirit Keepers tarot, and I think the
Hmm.
first one is black and white, second one is sepia, and then the third one is full color. But it's kind of magical that they're each their own deck. You know, it's like a
Yeah.
variation on the theme, but there's only so many of them. And so it gives the deck, I don't know if the word is gravitas, but it just gives it a little something, right? When you know that
Hmm.
something that is unique and special and has been created just for that limited run. That's really, really
Hmm.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's awesome.
Yeah, definitely. Hmm.
So outside of your card of your pup, which I'm sure is at the
Hmm.
top of the list, do you have any other favorite cards in the deck or cards that you
Gosh.
particularly enjoyed working on?
Yeah. So, I mean, I like so many of the cards in the
I
deck.
know.
Like,
It's hard to
yeah.
ask. It's like, pick your favorite pup.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Yeah, yeah. Well, especially because like I got to get to know every dog's story,
yeah,
you know, as I was painting the cards. So like they're all super special.
yeah.
But I think one that really stands out for me is the death card. I really love
Oh,
the
yeah,
death
yeah.
card.
It's beautiful.
And
I just pulled that
thank
up.
you. Thank you. So that one is based on a service dog. And his story is sort of like he was kind of in the stage of retirement when his
Oh,
owner contacted me and wanted him in the deck.
yeah,
And so they were basically undergoing this huge change because like they were getting a new service dog and there was this whole process of like, you know, releasing the sort of constant bond that they have because like a service dog essentially accompanies their human like everywhere.
yeah, yeah,
So, you know, there's this incredible bond between a service dog and their disabled human.
yeah.
And with like such a difficult and yet beautiful change that was happening, it was just such
Mhm,
a perfect story for the death card,
mhm,
to like really represent like that moving on, as well as the dog was like getting old and there was that like parting that
yeah,
was definitely going to happen at some point too, so there
mhm,
was that grief around it, but there was also this like joy and celebration of their connection, and I
yeah,
really wanted to bring that in, as well as it was really special to work with. The dog was a really fun like breed to try to capture, so it's a Beauceron, which
okay,
is like not a very common breed,
yeah,
and is very rare for service dogs. So it was really cool to kind of explore like trying to really capture the unique features of this dog as well, and just to like tell his story and his like calm personality and everything like that, while representing the journey that the death card really represents. So, so I think that one really stands out to me as one of like my favorite cards for sure.
Yeah, that's such a beautiful story. And it, like you said, it perfectly encapsulates that cyclical nature of death and rebirth and moving into different stages and phases that the death card represents. And what a beautiful story. I noticed on the Kickstarter that if you reach a certain funding point, you were looking at doing, is it an illustrated book with the stories of the dog? That's such a cool idea, because like, it just pulls on my heartstrings. It's such a beautiful, it's so lovely to know what, like even just that the Ace of Wands is your pup and then the death card. And it's, yeah, it's so lovely to have those stories. It's really beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be wonderful to be able to share all of those stories. I definitely need to reach that goal in the Kickstarter, because like it's such a time investment to create an illustrated guidebook, and you know, I'll need the flexibility that would provide. But so we'll see. You know, I don't know. We still have 11 days, I think it is, and we still have to raise like about 20,000 more in order to reach the guidebook. But who knows? You know, if people really share it and everything like that, like Kickstarters can take off in the end too. So
for sure, for sure. Yeah, no, that's great. There's still lots of potential for that to happen in almost 2 weeks. So that's great. Yeah. Were there any cards that you found particularly challenging?
Yeah, I think the Seven of Swords was kind of challenging for me. I think because I had to do a lot to capture the dog's kind of like trickster energy without making the dog look strange. I think was the hardest thing, was like, because like dogs are tricksters, right? Like there are plenty of tricksters who are dogs, like and so that wasn't inherently hard to like capture the like curious, playful nature of a dog, but to have them arranged in a way as well that like it was so difficult to have them look natural holding the swords in that way as well, because that was one of the big things with this deck, is that I didn't want the dogs to look like awkward and forced in their poses. I wanted it to look like a dog could actually be like in this scenery, and that it was natural for them. But then I needed this kind of, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say that I love how the dog has their paw on the sword. Like that's such a perfect connection point, because that's such a natural movement for a dog. Like it doesn't look forced or posed at all. It looks very natural.
Thank you.
Playful nature of like, I'm just going to test that out a little bit.
Sorry, yeah. No, you're fine. And then one of the other big challenges with this too was both just the dog and the detailing in the dog, because there's a lot of like texture. It's a very like multicolored, you know, textured sort of dog. So that was a little bit of a challenge. I kind of worked a little bit with like colored pencil and stuff too in that, just to get that like additional look that watercolor couldn't quite create. And then the color scheme for the card was a big challenge as well. Like I really was like, okay, what exact sort of like colors am I going to bring in here? And like, how do I want this to look? Because like green, orange, and yellow are like colors that can often look very kind of like messy together if they're not in like, if they're like not in a natural setting. Because obviously, you know, there's beautiful like orange and yellow flowers and things like that. But to kind of create like the circus tent and the like the trickery and the like little red dots on the swords themselves and things like that, like there was a lot of thinking about the colors and the decisions and everything like that went into it.
Oh, I love that so much. Yeah, well, you've created a beautiful, beautiful background. Like everything is so distinct and unique, and I love how the sun is peeking out through like the cloud formations up top too. Like you've really brought the colors together beautifully. That's really great.
Thank you.
Yeah. So were there any others that you found challenging, or was that the main one that was?
Yeah, let me think. I mean, there's 78 cards, so keeping them, keeping them straight in my head. Let me scroll through. Yeah, right. I also have like amnesia too. One of the things that I'm really open about is like being a disabled creator, and like so memory and stuff is like not my forte.
Oh, absolutely. I'm so glad with that. That's
no worries. Let me kind of just scroll through my deck here real quick and see. Oh, one of the other kind of like, this is a smaller challenge, but the Chariot was definitely one that like was a little bit of a challenge, because that was the first time when I was creating the deck that I was confronted with like a humanoid figure to really work with. Because like it was easy to replace the main like figure of a card with a dog. But the sphinxes were like such an important symbol to the card. And I was like, but I really don't want human faces in this deck. So I was like, how am I going to do this? And like coming up with the idea of like a sphinx cat was like my replacement with it. And I felt like that kind of tied in the symbolism, but it was also quite a challenge to like paint cats for the first time as well. And I was like, okay, I need to also make them look like regal, but not the dominant part of the card, because the dog is the real feature. So it was like quite a layout to do, as well as it's such a like flat, like a flat kind of scene where there isn't a lot of perspective. There's not like a lot of like landscaping and background and things like that. And so it was a lot to kind of create this sense of depth without really like, having much space in the card.
Yeah.
So that was kind of just a big like artistic challenge as well as
Mhm.
like symbolic challenge to sort of face when I was really starting the deck, because this is one of the first cards that I did.
Oh, cool. Yeah, well, I love the
Hmm.
different elements that you've included, like the moon symbols here and the
Yes.
way that you structured the cats in the foreground. I mean, it really makes the dog front and center, and yet there's that imagery of pulling the chariot that's typically traditionally included, which is really amazing. I really love that. Yeah, it's a
Thank you.
great
Thank
card.
you. Yeah. Yeah, so I think, let me see, like, I would say well, some of the others are like the Four of Wands and the Three of
Hmm.
Pentacles too,
Yeah.
that were a little challenging and wonderfully challenging because they incorporated so many dog stories.
Oh,
So the Four
yeah.
of Wands has three dogs in it, which like
Hmm.
trying to get the dogs detailed enough, but having them fit the scene was a huge artistic challenge. And then same with the Three of Pentacles, like having three dogs in it. And the Three of Pentacles is a little extra special because those dogs actually don't all know each other.
Oh, cool.
So in the Four of Wands, there are like a little family of dogs,
Yeah.
but in the Three of Pentacles, it was actually kind of one was like a giveaway that I did, is that someone was able to get their dog in a card through a
Oh,
giveaway.
that's so cool.
One was someone said like, okay, I really want my dog in a card. There weren't many available left.
Yeah, yeah.
So I was like, well, I can do this, but there needs to be other figures in the card as well because that's really important. So they were like, that's fine. I can share the card with another dog. So then there was someone else who joined too. So it was really fun to synthesize all of those stories together and to kind of capture their unique personalities without it being like, you know, such a focus on one
Mhm.
specific dog. So a
Yeah.
huge artistic challenge, but in a really joyous way because I was able to explore
Yeah.
more of those dog connections.
Oh, I love that so much.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I wanted to mention too, like one of the tiers that you have for the Kickstarter is a custom portrait of someone's
Hmm.
dog, right? At the $500 level. Yeah,
Hmm.
that that's such a beautiful keepsake. Yeah, because it's such a beautiful bond that you have with your dog, and to have that kind of encapsulated in a
Hmm.
memorable piece is really, really beautiful. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Hmm.
really,
Hmm.
really cool. Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
amazing.
Thank you. I think
Um,
a lot of people like who have their dogs in the deck have expressed like being very excited to have this deck
yeah.
produced because it's such a way for them to share like their dog
Mhm.
and their story like with other
Yeah,
people. And a lot of
absolutely.
the dogs in the deck have passed on as well, just because like a lot of people, are honoring their dogs through this art in that sort
Yeah,
of way.
yeah,
So I wouldn't say the majority, but I would say probably like
mhm,
a third of the dogs
yeah,
have, passed on and stuff.
mhm,
And so it was just such a like beautiful way to kind of immortalize every dog story as
yeah,
well. And I felt that a lot when I was creating my dog's card,
yeah,
and just like being able to see, like, she's still very young. She's like
yeah,
just about to turn 3,
yeah,
but like, just to have that kind of keepsake of her as
mhm,
well. And then it's also been really fun because a lot of people have come to me who don't have their dogs in the deck, but are like, oh my gosh, my dog looks so similar to this card, or my dog is so similar to this one. And that's been
oh,
really fun as well to sort of see
yeah,
how, even though it's based off of like one dog, it
mhm,
ends up reaching and connecting with so many others because there is
oh,
such a diverse connection collection of like different breeds and things like that.
yeah,
And it was just such a way to like just share that like connection with people and to see like kind of this web of some people like who have their dogs in the deck and then people who see their dog represented in the deck.
yeah. Oh, it's
Hmm.
beautiful. I think that it's beautiful in the dog, and that applies in the RWS as well. Like depending on the deck, I think the more
Hmm.
accessible decks that are available, the more people are able to see themselves represented. In this case,
Hmm.
your dog represented, and it fosters such a deep connection with the cards in that way. You
Hmm.
know, it creates that kind of bond, which is really lovely. Yeah, and to be able to memorialize and commemorate your dog in that way is really special.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
had a
Hmm.
friend who just got a tattoo of her dog on her arm,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
he's still around and doing quite well. But it was just so nice to have that. I suspect I'll probably end up doing the same for my pup
Hmm. Hmm.
eventually. I got my first tattoo last August, and it's definitely not going to be my last.
That's what I've heard from everyone. It's like,
Yeah, once you break
yeah.
the seal, it's like, okay, yeah, now we're gone.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
Um, so yeah, I wanted to talk about some of the tiers that you had available because
Sure.
in addition to the deck tier, there's also a sticker set,
Hmm.
art print, an original painting, and then the exclusive painting of your custom pup. I love that there's so many different ways for people to support the Kickstarter, because like that's such variety. So even if you're not a tarot person, you can still appreciate the stickers and the prints and your beautiful artwork. Like that's such a great idea.
Thank you. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I really wanted to make it both like just accessible because a lot of people really just like art of dogs, you know?
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
did want to like have that so, you know, you could get an art print of just like the star or something like that, which is just like a really beautiful scene with a dog, or you know, or something like that where it isn't like inherently, it doesn't need to be recognized instantly as tarot for those who aren't
Mhm.
familiar with it. So like you could just
Oh,
decorate
that's
a
such a
space.
beautiful card.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah, I love how that one like came out, the like
Yeah.
glistening in it.
Mhm.
So really like it kind of gave this opportunity for people to be able to access the art without necessarily being bonded to the tarot. And then
Mhm.
of course there's the deck, you know, in the Kickstarter, which is definitely the most popular tier by far.
Yeah.
And then I also offer the actual like original paintings. So I still
Mhm.
have, I think it's like a little over 30 original paintings available.
Yeah.
Where basically like you can actually have like the watercolor illustration for something. So it's like one of a kind and everything like that. And that's been really fun to offer. And I've had a few people contact me and want theirs. And then a few people who have their dog in the deck and weren't previously able to afford the original painting,
Yeah.
they've kind of reached out again, seeing it
Oh,
on the
that's
Kickstarter and been like, you know,
lovely.
I can afford that now. I want the painting
Yeah.
of my dog. So,
Oh, that's
so it's been
beautiful.
really nice, yeah, to share that original art. And then,
Yeah.
of course, there is the tier as well, where like I can do a custom portrait of your pet, and it doesn't have
Yeah.
to be a dog. It could be like an alpaca,
Yeah.
or
Oh, that's
whatever.
amazing.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. So like the theme would be probably tarot themed, but if someone wanted like a different scene that was not tarot related at all, I would be,
Yeah.
you know, more than happy to do that as well.
Oh,
So,
that's
so those are
amazing.
like custom illustrations, and the like original painting and everything is included in that as well. So I would ship
Oh,
the actual like painting to them, so they could
yeah.
frame it and everything like that.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, it's really special to have that. I know I've seen a few different Kickstarters that have original artwork, and it's such a neat, wonderful component to have, because that's
Mhm.
extra special, you know, like it's really
Mhm.
lovely. Oh, that's so great. So I'm curious, how has your relationship with tarot shifted after creating this deck? Like, yeah,
Mhm.
what has that process been like for you?
Yeah, I mean, well, first, I have a huge appreciation for other deck creators because I'm like, there's so much work that goes into creating a
Oh,
deck.
yeah.
So I think that really built up my just general like love and appreciation just for tarot as an art form as well, and just seeing it as something that like, you know, every deck is so incredibly special, not just because like it has its own symbolism and things like that, but because there really is so much love that goes behind
Mhm.
every deck that's out there.
Yeah.
And like, you know, it's so much more than just the symbols on the card. It's like this whole journey that you go on. I feel like when you use a deck, you're going on this journey with its creator. And I
Yeah.
think that that's such a like beautiful moment of human connection that happens in such a way that I think like I didn't realize, you know, would happen like when
Yeah.
holding another person's tarot deck or something like
Yeah.
that. And I'm like having just such a deep respect for the for like the
Mhm.
creative process of that. And then
Mhm.
I think as well, I also realized that throughout this journey, like tarot was something that it was always like interesting to me, and I've had like a spiritual background. I've always been a pretty spiritual person and
Yeah.
stuff, but I never really like connected with tarot as a
Mhm.
tool as much as, you know, once I really, to be honest, once I got the actual printed deck in my hand was really the time that I had to actually explore the deck and to use it myself, because then it was actually in cards. And I just realized like how much I intuitively connected to it, and
Mhm.
how much like subconscious intuition went into the art creation, because there was a lot of like conscious creation as well, you know, in
Mhm.
terms of like I was very intentional about symbolism and meaning and stuff like
Mhm.
that. But there was so much that happened subconsciously that I didn't even realize until I was actually using the deck.
Yeah.
And I really learned that like tarot is such a tool that can be used in terms of like it's not, you know, kind of what you would traditionally think. I
Mhm.
mean, there definitely can be readers who use it this way, but
Yeah.
like this isn't, you know, my experience with it is
Yeah.
that it isn't so much like, you know, this super strict point on like fortune telling tool, you know,
Yeah.
that I kind of learned that like, that's not really what tarot is. What it
Yeah.
really is sort of this like open door into insight, where it sort of is like, okay, examine this idea, this general concept, and dive into that, and
Mhm.
from there you can get the information that you need. And I
Mhm.
kind of just realized that like every card in a way is sort of like a portal, like it has this message behind it that can be such a like form of guidance, rather than like strict meaning. So I think that was really fun as well to just explore that, and that definitely shifted my relationship and understanding of like what tarot was.
Mhm. Yeah, I've definitely found that with my own practice. I've been working with tarot in some capacity for over 12 years now.
Wow.
But I found that my relationship and expectation of what tarot is and what it can do and can't do has really shifted over that time. Like you said, I don't use it as a divinatory tool so much in terms of future prediction, but I find it super helpful for me to tune into the energetic of how I'm feeling, where I'm at, how I can empower myself to move forward in a better way. You know, it will highlight some blocks that I have or some limitations and invite me to work through that. You know, it's really quite an amazing tool. Like my husband isn't really into tarot at all, but he sees how helpful it's been for me in terms of, you know, working through stuff. And I'll often say to him, I've said this about a million times, like there's 78 cards in the deck and you could pull any one of them and use that as a way to touch base with where you're how you're feeling or where you're at. And any of them can be interpreted, but I don't know about you, but sometimes it's uncanny what will show up if I'm looking at something and then the Eight of Cups comes up and I'm like, I could have picked another card that could have helped me make sense of this, but this is like quite literally the message I'm looking for right here, right? Like there's so much magic in that. And like you said, like art appreciation, like my deck collection has definitely expanded a lot over the last little while. And part of that is because, like I said earlier, it's very much a form of art appreciation. And I have so much respect for the work and care and love and consideration that goes into each one of these decks. And they all have a slightly different energetic to them. Like there's certain decks that I'll reach for if I want to do some shadow work and I'm looking at diving a little bit deeper. And then there's other decks when, like I said earlier, I just want a really warm hug, you know, or something that's comforting to me. There's other decks that I will reach for in that case. And it's so lovely that there's something out there for everyone, you know?
Definitely.
Representation is important. Being able to see yourself or see something that you really care about represented in a deck is really important too. And I love that there's so much more available now than there used to be, even when I was reading like 12 years ago, right? It's become a lot more accessible and a lot more mainstream, which is really, really lovely. Yeah, that's really awesome. So, was there anything else that you wanted to share about the deck or the process of creating it or your work as an artist or anything else? I'm so curious to know.
I think one of the other things that I would share is just that I think that this deck, it really symbolizes like hope and optimism for me. Because like you were saying, like it does kind of give you that like warm, comforting hug, even with the more challenging cards, because like, I mean, they're dogs, right? So you know, it can't be that like, tragic of a deck for some of the cards. And I was very intentional with some of the like, you know, the 10 of Swords and like the Hanged Pup. The Nine of Swords. Like they're not, you know, I wasn't gonna like kill a dog, you know, in the card or anything like that. Like, that would just be like against what the deck was for me. Because this deck was also like very much a personal journey. You know, I invested 5 years in it. So it was like such a journey in my healing as well. So I'm a like trauma survivor, a survivor of trafficking. And that was just something that like I found a lot of peace through art throughout my life. But being able to explore it and kind of tap into each card's symbolism and sort of explore like the healing journey behind it very much, I think, influenced the full creation of the deck and just created this sort of like very hope-based deck, because it was sort of like, hey, no matter what comes up, there's hope behind this. And there are a lot of like hopeful and joyous cards just in tarot in general, but even the harder cards, like you were saying, the Three of Swords, like, you know, it has this little bit of cheer to it where there's sort of this like, you're moving through this or you're healing this or you're examining this, and there's like freedom and cheer and you know, release and peace and things like that that are behind every card as well, because I feel like that's so integral, at least in my experience, to trauma healing in general, just because like, you know, there are a lot of hard moments, but like when you move through those hard moments, there's peace that comes after. And I feel like that was something that I was really intentional with while creating this deck too, and was very much like a subconscious influence. So I really, you know, just wanted to share that like this deck is also meant as like a healing tool and, you know, something that is sort of like a place of comfort, but also a place of exploration, because that's really what it was for me, like as an artist as well.
Yeah, no, I love that so much, because that 3, I just has such a gentle energy to it. Like when I first started reading tarot, I felt like there was good cards and bad cards. And the more I work with it, the more I realize that no card is inherently good or bad. They all serve a purpose in assisting with healing and growth and development. And pulling the Three of Swords doesn't just mean doom and gloom and, you know, terrible things. It also means that you're healing, and it can be a painful process, but you're actively moving through that, and you have the bravery to confront those things that are difficult. And there's such
Hmm.
power in that. And it's so healing and empowering and really, really beautiful. And I
Hmm.
mean, my dog likes to sit like this a lot. And
I
I deal
love
with a
that
lot of
pose.
anxiety, like I said. And this is one of my
Uh-huh.
worst cards. I'm a Gemini. And it's just so fantastic to see. Like, this is such a worry card, an anxiety card, and it can be one that can be somewhat challenging, to say the least, in
Hmm.
a lot of decks. And so to
Hmm.
see this beautiful pup sitting in
Hmm.
repose
Hmm.
in a little bit of a goofy position, like, it's just so lovely. And I
Hmm.
am really
Hmm.
happy when I see this card, and it doesn't take away from the meaning at all, but it just gives it that sense of levity and joy, which is often needed when you're working through a healing
Hmm.
process, right?
Hmm.
And yeah, this
One of
kind
the
of
things,
oh, sorry, go
oh
ahead.
yeah, I was just going to jump in and say real quick about the Nine of Swords.
Yeah.
I think, if my memory is not failing me, but I'm pretty sure that the dog on that card actually helps their human with their PTSD and their nightmares
Oh,
specifically. So there
yeah.
was like a lot of like that journey as well, is because it is kind of like that nightmare card,
Yes.
in a way, like it can
Yes.
really represent that. And just to have like such a direct, like poignant symbolism with the dog that's featured there was such a
Yeah.
like beautiful thing to explore in that card too.
Yeah, it really is.
Hmm.
And I was going to say about the Ten of Swords, I love that he's sitting amongst the swords. They're not impaling him
Hmm.
like most
Yeah.
swords, which, before I buy a deck, I always look at the Death card, the Tower card, the 3, 9, and 10, because those can
Hmm.
often be incredibly challenging, like especially with like
Hmm.
Wild Unknown was one of the first decks that I really worked intensively with, and that's very jarring imagery. But this
Hmm.
one is just, it's gentle and it's comforting, and the dog is covered in this really warm, fuzzy blanket. Like, I love that.
Hmm.
It feels very protective, right? Because
Hmm.
oftentimes, like, this card can be interpreted as the you've just bottomed out and there's no way but up. You know, like,
Hmm.
things are tough right now. And it's like acknowledging that, but also creating that sense of comfort and protection, right?
Hmm.
Which is so, I
Hmm.
think, important when you're looking at doing any kind of healing or shadow work. Like, it's
Hmm.
really, that's
Hmm.
really, really lovely. Yeah. And you had mentioned also the hanged one. Let's see here. Oh, the hanged pup. Yeah, and I
Hmm.
love
Hmm.
this one too. There's a sense of playfulness in this that is
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
lovely, because oftentimes, a hanged one is stagnancy and being stuck and unable to move forward. But
Hmm.
this
Hmm.
pup is actively engaging with a rope, and it's not
Hmm.
being hung from a tree or anything else. It's just
Yeah.
having this playful moment, right? And it's that
Hmm.
sense
Hmm.
of stasis and lack of movement, but um, there's a playfulness to it, which I think is really, really lovely. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that one of the things with that card was like with the hanged pup and just sort of that like flipping perspective, like
Yeah.
that component as well, that like you're
Yeah.
stuck if you don't flip the perspective. And I
Yeah.
think that that was like what I really wanted to challenge with that card, was
Yeah.
that so traditionally it is like, someone is bound, and like I wasn't going to like tie up a puppy, in
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
deck.
Yeah.
So I was like, how do I want to capture this? And how do I want to challenge that notion of like, to move through the challenge that this card is
Mhm.
showing, you need to move through the stasis. And like, I was like, okay, like I will have the dog engage with that rope. And like, that was really what my intention with that card was.
Yeah.
And, something as well I would love to share in, a guidebook,
Yeah.
if that ends up becoming creative
Yeah.
and stuff. But yeah, so that was definitely something that I was like very intentional with as well. And that was a very fun, although very challenging card to create too.
Yeah. Yeah,
Hmm.
for sure. I wanted to ask you about, because these are ones, like I said, sometimes I'll also look at the devil card, just because that tends to be more challenging. Although I feel like the
Hmm.
devil gets a bad rap. Like, I used to really kind of avoid that card when I first started reading. And now I kind of love it, because,
Hmm.
yes, it's all about, temptation and overdoing it. But sometimes I feel like this card can be a let loose card, allow
Hmm.
yourself to test the waters and try out the things and maybe indulge
Hmm.
yourself a little. It's not always a terrible thing. Like we were talking earlier about each card having multiple facets. And I
Hmm.
love this sweet little dog sitting on the
Hmm.
pillow in the middle of luxury and comfort and abundance. And there's all the pentacles on the wall and everything else.
Hmm.
But tell me more about this one. I love it so much.
Yeah, yeah. So, well, first of all, I created that card a long time ago. So,
Yeah.
so the journey with that those symbols are like, not quite as fresh
Oh, yeah, yeah,
as
no,
when it
for
was.
sure,
Yeah,
for sure.
but I remember one of the things that I really wanted to capture was definitely that sense of like how the devil kind of teeters in this place between like, being stuck and like, especially like trapped in terms of like
Mhm,
materialism, as well
mhm.
as um, just like bondage in general, like
Yeah,
that kind of like, stuckness,
yeah,
as well as teetering through this like freedom and escape from that, which can be the temptation component. And I really wanted that kind of like the dog to be like, I'm in a state of luxury, but also I have all of these leashes around me that show that like I'm not always in this luxury. Like sometimes I'm like, you know, kind of like going on a walk that maybe I want to sit on my cushion right now. And like, you know, maybe I don't want to be going on a walk or something like that.
Yeah.
And so to kind of like play with that sort of dichotomy a little bit was something that I was wanting to really explore with that, as well as just the more like traditional, like kind of devil symbolism with the like upside down pentacles and, you know, just the costume that I gave the dog as well. And just the dog's like expression. He has a little bit of like sass, you know, and that kind of like challenge.
Yeah, well, it's making the little pup is making direct eye contact, and they've got little devil horns, and there's that sense of playfulness that's part of it too, which I love so much. Yeah, and then I love that the Tower card has the Tower of Blocks being demolished. So you've got that tower element, but again, there's that playful energy that's at play in this, which is really, really lovely. Yeah.
Yeah. The Tower card was one of the very challenging ones because again, it was one of the like first, you know, few that I had made, and it was one of the first times that I really had to like divest or diverge, whatever the word that means to part from. So like to part from the like traditional symbols, just because like, you know, I wasn't going to have, again, like I wasn't going to have like puppies falling out of a tower or something like that. That was just like a very tragic scene. But I still wanted that sense of like chaos. And basically what I wanted was that sense that like when you've had a long day and then that one last little thing goes wrong and everything just kind of falls apart. And that was sort of what I was going there. It's just like, you know, it's like, okay, I'm finally relaxing. I've made this little Jenga tower. And now like my dog comes and knocks it over. And like where it was basically that sense of like, this is disappointing and chaotic and messy. But it's also something that can be picked up. And I think that that was a really important intentional symbolism that I included in that card as well, was just because like, you know, I think that with any tower, I think sometimes the symbolism for me, like when I was exploring tarot and stuff, for me, it was sometimes almost too hopeless, you know, or sort of the sense of like this huge, well-constructed tower is falling apart from its foundation. And I wanted something that was more like, hey, these messes can be cleaned up. Like, you know, like, yes, things have fallen apart. Yes, there's chaos here. Yes, there's disappointment. But at the same time, like, you can put these blocks back together. You know, yeah, it might take some time, some effort. It might be disappointing. It might be difficult in the process and things like that. But it's this like, again, it kind of has that like cyclical hope-like journey to it. And that was something that I was really intentional with this card as well.
Yeah, I love it so much because you have that tower element, but it's not as heavy, you know, like this card can be very intense. And I love that there's that sense of levity with it where, yeah, like you said, you can pick it up. You can start from scratch. I was just talking to the creator of the Herbal and Spice Culinary Tarot, and her version of the Tower card is a burnt souffle. And we were talking about that and the disappointment that goes into investing so much into something, but there's nothing to say start over again, right?
Yeah.
It's that idea of, okay, well, things didn't work out, but there's somewhere to go from here. Do you know what I mean? Like, so you clean out the pot and you start over again, right? It's not that that sense of devastation and loss that you get from some depictions of it, where it just seems like everything is gone, right? And I mean, there can be tower moments like that, but then there can also be minor tower moments where your pup comes in and runs through something that you just painted or worked on or whatever else, right? Like, I love that so much. And then we talked a little bit about the star before, but this is just such a beautiful card. I love the night sky in the background.
Thank you.
Little face of this pup, like it's just absolutely so soulful and lovely. And I love how you have that element of the water cups that you see so often in the star card, but it's a little bit different in how it's interpreted here. And I just love how you've incorporated everything so seamlessly into the illustrations.
Thank you.
You've got those references to the traditional RWS, but it's a little bit, it fits with the context of the pups, right? Which is so lovely. Like
that was one of the challenges too. Just in general was like, you know, that I couldn't have a dog like holding the, you know, the water cup and pouring it themselves, because like that just wasn't possible to position a dog like that. And I was like, I didn't really want it to be like, you know, something that they were holding in their mouth or something, because then it was too small. So there was a lot of like, okay, how do I want to shift this where I still maintain the important symbols, but I do make it like realistic for a dog too. So thank you for pointing that out too.
Oh yeah, you've done it beautifully with this. And I love this moon card too. I was just looking at that because so oftentimes there's the depiction of the two wolves, and usually one is light, one is dark, and it's that sense of contrast, right? And you have
Hmm.
that component here. Is that a wolf that's on this side,
It
or
is. Yeah. Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So there's that contrast between wildness and domesticity, and the
Hmm.
two sides that I think we all have, right?
Hmm.
And it's just such a beautiful rendition of that. And that moon is just so vibrant and full, and it kind of speaks to the potential for illumination that comes with this card, because so
Hmm.
much of the time it's like darkness and mystery and the things that are hidden, but through that process of uncovering that, there's so much illumination that can be found,
Hmm.
and it's just such a bright and lovely take on that card. I really,
Hmm.
really love it.
Thank you.
And then, okay, so I have to reference the sun card too, because this is the
Hmm.
cutest little pup. Oh my
I
goodness.
love the sun card.
Oh,
Yeah.
and the sunflowers in the background, like it's just such a purely joyful card,
Hmm.
like there's so much pure happiness that you've
Yeah.
depicted here, which is so lovely.
Yeah, I really wanted that in the sun card, is just like that,
Yeah,
really like this makes you smile when you see it,
yeah,
because like so much of the sun is that joy and that happiness and things like that. And I was just like, this needs to be like such a sweet, like bubbly card. Hmm.
oh, I love it so much. And then I love your depiction of the Judgment card as well.
Thank you.
This is really sweet.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, I love that the dog is just taking a leap through the ocean, and
Hmm.
oh, it's got a horn in its mouth too. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah,
I wanted to keep with like, again, that really important symbolism. But just to kind of like have it be more of a scene that you would see a dog in,
yeah,
like where it really is
yeah.
like, this dog kind of carrying that
Mhm.
judgment towards you,
Yeah.
where it's nothing to fear, because I think that sometimes like we think of judgment just in general, the concept of
Mhm.
judgment, and fear it.
Mhm.
And I think that like, if a dog is judging you, which dogs judge us plenty, like we all know that dogs judge
Yeah.
us plenty, but
Sometimes I
they
get that
always
look,
do
and I'm like,
it. Yeah. Yeah. Um, but they always do it with like kindness, and I think that that's what I really wanted to, was this sense that like the judgment, the examination that was happening in that card was something that like, yes, it's approaching you and it's approaching you
Mhm.
quickly, but it's
Mhm.
not coming to you from a place of like, you should be afraid of this.
Yeah,
Like maybe a little intimidated, it's a big dog,
yeah,
but like,
yeah,
but that it's also like clearly there to more like play and engage and just
yeah,
experience something with you, rather than to
yeah.
like topple you over. Maybe that'll
Mhm.
happen. The dog could
Yeah,
knock you over, but it's kind of
for
that sense
sure.
of like, it's not something to like fear.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there isn't that ill intent
Hmm.
associated with it. Like I feel like a lot of times depictions of the Judgment card can be like fire and brimstone and judgment coming
Hmm.
down
Hmm.
on high, whereas I prefer to look at it as the potential for leveling up and
Hmm.
exploring and expanding your perspective. And I think that the dog coming with the horn in its mouth is such a beautiful invitation to do that without taking yourself too seriously. Do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
really a beautiful reference point to
Yeah.
that. So what was it like creating the court cards for this deck?
Yeah, so it was definitely a little bit of a different journey, because I
Mm,
had started with the majors and had all of those
mm,
done and did that initial Kickstarter and everything.
yeah,
But then I was like, okay, I need to finish this project, especially because of the like Kickstarter issue I mentioned
mm,
earlier with the first one,
yeah,
that happened. Like I wanted to complete the deck and send all of the people who weren't able to receive the highest quality deck that I had offered in that previous
yeah,
Kickstarter, because of the printer and
yeah.
everything. I wanted to offer them the full deck just for free,
Mhm.
because like,
Oh, that's
of their
lovely.
patience and things like that.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I needed to commit to finishing it.
Mm,
And the process was similar and different in some ways. So there was a lot more symbolism to learn. Like there was a
mhm,
lot more exploration of that. There was a lot more understanding of like, what does the number 4 mean? What does the number
mhm,
3 mean? Like just that
mhm.
sort of stuff. As well as there were a lot more dogs to gather for the
Yeah.
project. So that was kind of, one of the big challenges, was just sort of like opening up the community and saying like, hey, all of these cards are now available.
Mhm.
Like who feels like their dog connects with this card, and who wants to kind of like commission a spot for them.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of similar to the majors, because like
Mhm.
those were also dogs that had like a spot that were chosen. But yeah, there was just like so much more that went into the court cards and
Yeah.
everything, and just like the individual suits and stuff, and then the actual like just like some of the like knight and the queen and the king and like those sort of cards. They I had to be so like I had to kind of face this challenge of like capturing the dog's personality while also capturing the like regalness or intensity of
Yeah.
that sort of card. And I think
Yeah.
that was the biggest challenge with those like the core cards,
Yeah.
um, was just kind of being able to balance like the overall energy of the card with that dog's unique personality.
Yeah. Well, you did a beautiful job with it. Like I just love the wand suit, there's a sense of exploration and adventure in the page that is such a part of that particular card, right? That curiosity and that desire to learn and understand more. Then you've got this beautiful Knight of Wands that's like charging ahead with all the inspiration and their horse. I love it. And then this queen is so beautiful, and I love that you have a little kitty as a reference point too, because that's such a part of the original symbolism. And then this King of Wands is just everything. It's so lovely. Like, this dog is so regal and so self-possessed and so confident. Like, the way that you captured that is just beautiful.
Thank you.
Each of the different suits is so unique too. Like, I really appreciate that. And you've got the this sweet Page of Cups, the water element that's incorporated. Like, that's just so beautiful.
Thank you.
And this, oh my gosh, yeah. The Dachshund, this one?
I think it's a Dachshund mix.
Okay.
So I want to say I don't have all the breeds memorized because there are a lot of mixes too.
I don't
but
really,
definitely.
I'm not very good with breeds, to be perfectly honest. It's just like a dog that my friend used to have in Newfoundland, and that's why I was like, oh, the one dog breed I know, Dachshund. They have such soulful eyes too, and it's like that hopeless romantic energy, right? It's just so lovely. Yeah. Oh, that's so great. And then I love this Queen of Cups. This is one of the cards that I identify most with in the tarot, and I just love this sweet little dog. Like, it's just such a great. And I love how you captured the water energy in each of these too. And again, like, the kings are so regal and so centered and grounded, and that's so much the energy of the king, right? It's just really, really lovely. I'm just gonna show off the other two suits, if that's okay with you. And
go ahead.
Page of Swords is just so lovely. It's that sense of there's a sense of adventure, I feel, with, I mean, definitely with the knights, but a little bit with the pages too. It's that quest for new information and new learning. And I always think of this as a student card, and there's a sense of engagement with this pup that's like looking over its shoulder, like, you ready to go? Or are we going to go learn some stuff now? Like, that's so great.
Yeah. That dog was so fun to paint too, just because, like, it was one of the, like, shaggiest dogs of the deck, and there was just so much, like, that went into the, like, little, like, hairs and everything like that, just to create that, like, flow. I had so much fun with that particular card.
Well, look at that tail. I mean, that's a feather duster if I've ever seen one. My pup has a full-on feather duster for a tail too, so I really appreciate that. And all the texture that you've managed to capture, it's really, really lovely. And then this Knight of Swords is, like, ready to go. I love it. It's, like, amazing. It's like primed and ready for adventure. And then this queen is just, they're all so beautiful. Like, I go through this deck and I just feel such a sense of appreciation for everything that you've put into it. I mean, just the textures and the small details that you've included. And each of these kings has such a grounded energy. Like, they each represent something a little bit different, but there's that sense of groundedness and self-possession that comes with those cards. That's just so lovely. It's such a sweet page. I love it.
I love that page. Yeah.
Like, there's pure happiness in a card. Like, I feel like it's very reflective of the Sun card too, which is the level of joy that's in it, right? And that sense of engagement and adventure, and then
and, like, freedom. I think that card has a lot of too.
Absolutely. And then the Knight of Pentacles is so amazing. This is a card that's been following me for months now, and it's just that sense of gravitas and that one step in front of the other, and you know, real sense of groundedness that comes with all the pentacles. But it's just there's no sense of urgency here. It's like, it'll come, right? And I just love that so much. And then, of course, the queen with the little hair in the front too, which is such a component of R.W. Smith, and it's so great. And then, oh my gosh, this King of Pentacles is so lovely. I love that.
Thank you.
Crown on their head, and it's just this sense of levity, right? Like, or not, levity, but also groundedness as well, which is really lovely. Yeah. Oh, that's so great.
Thank you.
So, we had mentioned before that the Kickstarter is on, is it November 11th? That's the last date?
Yep. Yeah. So 11/11. Yep, that's the end of the Kickstarter. And and there are, again, like, it is a limited edition deck. So, you know, for anyone that just popped in, so definitely best place to get it is the Kickstarter. But if you can't do the Kickstarter, don't worry, there will still be some left afterwards. As well as, like, a lot of the offerings on the Kickstarter, like the stickers and like a lot of the art prints and stuff, like, those are going to be very limited quantity after the Kickstarter. So, like, if you are interested in those, Kickstarter is definitely the place to get them. Because I'll probably, like, calculate how many stickers to order based on the Kickstarter. And there's going to be a few extras in case there's misprints or stuff, but I may not even sell those. So
Yeah.
a lot of the goodies, as well as the custom art, that offering that like top tier like of the Kickstarter,
Yeah.
like that's only available during the Kickstarter. So, there are definitely some things to keep an eye out for if you want to like support the project, as well as just like get some beautiful dog art.
Yes,
Like,
absolutely. And fair enough, because as an indie creator, I think this is something that a lot of people don't take into account, but the cost associated with printing is very, very high. And
yes.
so, for you to print a whole bunch of extra stickers or whatever else, it's a huge cost to incur. So it makes sense to print as much as you need. And then
Yeah.
that limited offering idea, right? Which is makes it extra special too, like we were talking about earlier. So yeah, that's really, really great. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me about your amazing deck. It is such a joy to work with. And it's so lovely to be able to talk to you about your process and inspiration and everything else. So
Yeah.
thank you
Well,
very
thank
much.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me. It was absolutely wonderful to speak with you and to
Oh,
just be able to
yeah.
talk about the deck. This is really the
Yeah.
first time that I've like done like a live and talked about the deck. So
Yeah.
it was just really wonderful to, share this space with you and to communicate with, our shared community here, and to just be able to share a little bit about the Barkana.
Yeah, it's so lovely. I'm honored that you took the time to speak with me. Like, this is
Thank you.
really, really
Yeah.
lovely.
Thank you so much. Well, I hope
Thank
that you
you
have a
so
wonderful rest of
much.
your day, and everyone
You
else
as
watching this
well.
has a wonderful time.
Yes, absolutely. And I will be saving this to my IGTV as well. So if anyone
Awesome.
hasn't had a chance to watch this, then you will be able to do so after the fact on there. So that'll be great.
Awesome. Well, thank you again.
Yeah, thanks so much and have a wonderful weekend.
All right. Yeah, you too.
Okay.
Take care.
Bye.